but no material change for them. A new law will protect terminally ill people from prosecution if they use cannabis, and it does allow for the growing and manufacture of cannabis products. But for those who still have to live in pain, it's a huge disappointment. Nita Blake-Pearson reports.
Pearl Schomburg has been using cannabis to manage her pain for the past 2 years. She suffers from inflammatory pain, PTSD and nausea, but access to her chosen medicine won't be any easier under the law change.
There's nothing in it for me today except hope that this is just the beginning. And I can tell you that there's a lot of disappointed people in the community. Some of them are quite angry as well because they feel like they've been let down by Jacinda. I'm a glass half full kind of person. I see this as a first step in the real fight.
Under the new law outlined by the Health Minister David Clark, it will remain an offence to supply cannabis to terminally ill people without a valid prescription from a doctor. An advisory committee will be established to review the rules for prescribing medicinal cannabis and to set minimum product quality standards. Ms Schomburg says she and many others can't grow their own products because they are too sick, and their suppliers are being busted for what she says is a crime with no victims.
I know there's a lot of disappointment, but this is not what we will end up receiving at the end of the day. This is the beginning of the process.
David Clark says in time the legislation will result in greater supply of quality medicinal cannabis, including products made in this country. When the new scheme is operational, patients with a prescription will be able to get medicinal cannabis from pharmacies. But some people, like Auckland woman Joan Cowie, who has stage 4 lung cancer, don't have time to wait.
Like they're saying on the news, you can go to the pharmacy and you'll be able to get your products there. Well, that's good 2 years away. I probably won't be here in 2 years.
Ms Cowie says the bill doesn't help people like her who don't want pharmaceutical cannabis. She prefers the organic product and says she couldn't afford to buy pharmaceutical cannabis anyway. Ms Schomburg says many users feel politicians are not taking their pain seriously.
I and many other people cannot afford pharmaceuticals. So shall we just sit here and wait for 5 years until the prices drop and then are we allowed compassion? You know, that just seems ludicrous to me.
She says future legislation needs to focus on patients and provide immediate affordable access to high-quality organic cannabis. Mō te hōtaka o te ata nei, ko Nita Blake-Pearson aho.
7:17. The Health Minister, David Clark, was listening to that. Good morning, Minister.
Good morning, Guyon.
Thanks for appearing with us today. Under this law change, will it be legal for the terminally ill to use cannabis?
It's not legal for them to use cannabis, but they have a defence at law, so they essentially won't be prosecuted for using it. And there's a very clear definition around what constitutes terminally ill. It's already used for a variety of other reasons, so those people can be sure that they will be safe to use illicit cannabis.
So you haven't legalised cannabis for medicinal purposes?
We haven't, no. In some sense, it may feel like a semantic argument, but it's made it very clear.
OK. In the first of the TV Leaders debates on TV1, the cancer sufferer Liz Morris asked, would you consider legalising cannabis for medical purposes? Mike Hosking offered both leaders 30 seconds to respond. Jacinda Ardern said, and I quote directly, I don't need 30 seconds. The answer is absolutely yes. Close quotes. So you failed to deliver.
Guyon, look, this is real progress, and actually it's being hailed as the biggest step forward. But you said you'd legalise it for medicinal purposes, and you didn't. You just admitted that. Guyon, look, we can have the semantic argument, but
people
are now going to be able to use...
Absolutely, is it?
People are going to now be able to use illicit cannabis in their final year of life. They will have the choice about using that, and that hasn't been the case before explicitly at law. They will also be able to access over time more products through a medicinal cannabis scheme that we're proposing to put in place, and also the public will get to have their say through the select committee process, and I think that's really important.
Okay, yep. All right, let's go through it then. So Auntie Jill has terminal cancer and wants to use cannabis for pain relief. Can she grow her own cannabis plants?
Under law currently no, although there's a huge amount of discretion being used by police currently. And I guess this sends a strong signal to police that that discretion is the right thing to do, because they're not going to be able to prosecute terminally ill patients.
What about the terminally person? Terminally ill person, can they go, and they will be listening right now, can they grow cannabis plants for medicinal use? Can they?
Well, at law, no. The police are using discretion currently for personal use, and I expect this will send a clear signal that for the terminally ill, it would be completely pointless to be prosecuting them for using it.
Auntie Jill got terminal cancer. You've told us she can't grow her own cannabis plants. How does she get it?
Well, where there's good evidence, Guyon, her GP can prescribe pharmaceutical grade products, and there are, there's Sativex that everybody's heard of. There are other products coming to market, and we are proposing to have a scheme where New Zealand helps with what is currently a global shortage of supply and products that have evidence behind them.
Because you've said in the bill,
for certain conditions.
Yep, and you've said yourself, and the bill says as well, quote, access to affordable cannabis products remains problematic for New Zealanders, end quote. So you've acknowledged that those kinds of avenues are very difficult. So how does she get it?
So, Guyon, that's the problem we're trying to solve for here. We are trying to make sure that it's more accessible for patients, that drugs that are proven to work, which is what medicine is about, are increasingly accessible to patients. Of course, patients with chronic pain or who are terminally ill have a range of other drugs already available to them, plenty of opiates and other drugs well known to those who are suffering. But this gives one more arrow in the quiver of medications that can be used for those who are really suffering.
Okay, so she has a defence at law for using cannabis if she's terminally ill. Say she goes to buy it. Is the person she is buying it from, is the seller of the cannabis committing a crime?
At law currently, yes. And, there's no dressing that up. But what we do see is the police using discretion around people who are in terminal illness.
Pretty problematic, though, isn't it? Because it feels a bit like a setup. So if you're dying, you can smoke it, but you can't engage in a legal transaction, and you can't grow your own cannabis.
Yeah.
Where does it leave these people? You then say, oh, well, you can get these products. You admit yourself that they're not available, they're not affordable. So what is the option? You're saying to people, oh, you can do it, but you're engaging in a criminal transaction. What's she supposed to do?
Guyon, we want to make available products that have good evidence behind them, that doctors feel safe prescribing. In the meantime, we've got an issue with the potential for the police to interpret otherwise the intentions of this government. This makes it clear that there is a legal defence for people in their final years of their life, and I think New Zealanders are a compassionate people. They would not want to see the police going in heavy-handed with people who are dying, trying to protect them from a health risk or otherwise, when they feel that this is one means of relief that they can get in addition to the other ones, and it's important to them.
You're asking for compassion, but what, say, Auntie gets her son, a 17-year-old, 18-year-old, to buy some cannabis for her. Now, you're relying on the police involved to be compassionate about that. They might decide to nick him. I mean, you are a lawmaker. You write the law so that it has the right amount of specificity to actually do what you want it to do. And I'd argue that you haven't done that.
Guyon, this will not make every activist happy. I think we have to be upfront about this. It goes further than any parliament has ever been prepared to go before. It is real progress. This is a big step forward. There is another members' bill in the name of Chloe Swarbrick that's coming to select committee in the new year, and that will give the parliament a chance to see whether it wants to go further and have a wider range of people accessing a wider range of products.
Would you
That's
support
a conscience
her bill?
vote. I will be voting on my own conscience, not as Minister of Health for that, and yes, I will be supporting that bill.
Well, why didn't you just adopt her bill?
Guyon, it is challenging once you start digging into the issues and looking at the evidence.
Why didn't you adopt her bill?
Because once you start digging into the evidence, Guyon, you find that there are a limited range of products that have good clinical evidence behind them, and those products have good clinical evidence.
But her bill allows you to grow
I'm the
your
Minister
own
of Health,
plants, eh?
and I'm the Minister of Health in this situation, Guyon, where I have to take responsibility for ensuring that the products that are getting to market
and fair enough,
have evidence around them.
Can I ask you this question?
Far away.
Why don't you allow people to grow their own plants?
Well, Guyon,
it's a plant.
Guyon, once you start opening that particular Pandora's box, it becomes a very difficult line to enforce in law. If you allow people to have 2 plants, 4 plants, if their friends have brought over some plants, are those plants going in and out of the house? That's where the police can use discretion.
So why are you going to vote for Chloe Swarbrick's bill then? Because her bill allows you to grow your own pot, doesn't it?
Well, I think it's something that could be tested at Select Committee. I'm going to support it to Select Committee so that it can be reviewed, so that we can have public submissions around that wider argument, and medical submissions actually, so that we can have a wider public debate, because I think there is appetite to go beyond the strictly legal model that we have in medicine at the moment by the wider public, but that will be a test of how much further the Parliament itself is willing to go, whether it will get enough support to Select Committee.
Thank you so much for your time this morning. Do appreciate it. That is the Health Minister, David Clark. It's 25 minutes past 7.
Well, the economic cost of shifting the vehicle import...